Welcome to Urban Campus. Welcome to our new building. Our new building was, we opened in about June of 2021. The planning and execution of the building was an incredibly rewarding experience. The best part to come from this is the focus groups that we did when we were designing this building. All of the students, staff, and faculty wanted three things. One, they wanted small group collaboration spaces. Two, they wanted a coffee shop, surprise, surprise, at a college campus. But three, they wanted art. They wanted art integrated throughout the entire campus. And so this today, welcoming an artist and to have a guest lecture is, it's an amazing feeling. It is an absolutely amazing feeling to be able to introduce Sheena Rose and welcome all of you to campus and have beautiful, beautiful artwork in our neighborhood. So with that, again, welcome to Urban Campus. I'm gonna ask Breann Bye to not come up to the podium. How about Matt? Matt Greiner, yes. Matt, please come up.
Thanks so much, Ann. Thank you for your use of this beautiful space in the building. We had so exciting of a time approaching this building, seeing the artwork on the screens outside. You're about to meet Sheena and see how infectious her enthusiasm is. But let me just tell you, following her around to see public art in the city is a great way to have really good feelings all the time. You'll hear a little bit today about the process, this bus shelter project that Sheena is the artist here. We're completing the work that she's done. It's been in motion almost 3 years or longer. 5, people are saying 5. So this has been quite an endeavor to get to where we are here tonight. Thank you, or today. Thank you all for coming to see us. Breann Bye of the 6th Avenue Corridor is here. She will talk a little bit about the process that got us here and how important these bus shelters have been for the 6th Avenue Corridor. We'll hear a little bit from Matt Harris of DART, and then I will be very pleased to come back and introduce you to Sheena Rose, who's our artist visiting from Barbados.
Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. It's so great to see everyone here today. My name is Breann Bye, and I'm the Executive Director of the 6th Avenue Corridor Urban Neighborhood Main Street Program. So Main Street programs in Iowa, there are over 50 Main Street programs. Many of them are smaller towns with the squares that you kind of think about, the town squares. We are one of 3 urban neighborhood Main Street districts, so we're unique. We focus on 6th Avenue from 235 north to the river, so 1.2 mile corridor. We're linear, and we focus on a variety of projects. Certainly the streetscape project, which we'll talk a little bit about, and then the integration of public art, events, economic vitality, fostering small business stability, recruiting new small businesses. I am a proud resident of the district for over 12 years now. Live here with my family right up at 6th and Franklin. And to see this project come to fruition at this moment is incredibly exciting. The past few years, I was just visiting with Matt a little bit about at the back. The last few years for all of us, but certainly here on 6th Avenue, have been both transformational and traumatic. It's been a series of events, certainly with COVID, but here locally, the transformation of 6th Avenue with the streetscape project. You go out there today, you see the beautiful new trees planted, the sidewalks, but it's been a long haul to get there. There's been a lot of construction equipment and moving pieces, so to have this moment where we're celebrating, Sheena is here with us, and we are able to enjoy her presence amongst all of our friends and neighbors is just wonderful. The project did start 5 years ago, and I can't remember exactly how those conversations first went, but it was DART's exploring this idea of integrating art into bus shelters. The streetscape project is coming up. We're planning bus shelters as part of it. would you be interested in kind of a guinea pig process? Guinea pig was the word used, we're not exactly sure what that will look like. And so with the partnership of the Greater Des Moines Public Art Foundation and DART, we started figuring out what exactly that would look like. And so we took an invitational approach where the previous executive director of the Public Art Foundation reached out to a number of artists, both locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally, with the focus of reflecting the diversity of our community. Wanted artists that really represented the breadth of diversity that we have here along the 6th Avenue corridor. And so we convened a selection committee, board members. We do have some board members from 6th Avenue corridor here today, and serves on our board, Naomi Hamlet with the City of Des Moines as well. Thank you for being here. And then also members of the Public Art Foundation's board. And we had community residents and business owners, property owners participate in the selection committee as well. And I will kind of leave it off to say that what I recall of everyone's feelings about Sheena's work was that it so represented the energy and vitality of who we are as a community, and represented the diversity in a way that was authentic and wasn't kind of a cloying type of representation of diversity. It was very sincere and genuine. And so thank you so much for being here. I'm going to pass the mic over to Matt with DART, and he can speak a little bit about DART's perspective in the process. Before I do that though, we're having a big party on 6th Avenue from 4 to 6. Like, there's a lot of food planned. You need to show up. Like, there's music. We've got kids that Sheena worked with yesterday. They have a gallery. Come on out. It'll be a really fun time. They'll be dancing, I promise. And we hope to see you then. But thank you so much.
We're all excited about the dancing. And I'll brush up on our dancing skills after the last few years. As Breann said, my name is Matt Harris. I'm the Business and Community Partnerships Manager for the Des Moines Area Regional Transit Authority. I have the privilege of representing the entire DART team today as we celebrate the installation of the 6th Avenue Corridor Art Shelters, Phase 1, and celebrating and welcoming Sheena Rose and her transformational creativity that she's brought to this area, and her newly established status as an honorary Iowan. I think we can all just agree. All in favor say aye. Okay. Aye. It's unanimous. So welcome Sheena, to you and your mom. At the risk of stating the obvious, when it comes to bus shelters, one of the great things about them is that they make public transportation more accessible for our riders and everyone who utilizes DART as a means to move about the community. But they also do something a little bit deeper. They signal to the community that we respect and value the journey that someone takes every day to get to work, to get to school, or to get home safely at night. So when you infuse public art into that equation, what had been just a location or a point along that journey suddenly becomes a destination unto itself. And a sense of place is born from that infusion of creativity into that location. So at DART, we like to say that the bus is for all of us, and I think thanks to Sheena, we're reminded that art too is for all of us. So we're grateful to all of the people that have helped make this possible. This is about more than just bus shelters. It's about more than just curbs and streetscapes. It's about people, the people of the neighborhood, and the people of the community that are working tirelessly behind the scenes to just do good things. And those good things don't happen without people. And we're very grateful to many of the folks in this room and many who will be with us tonight at the celebration, Dancing with Breann, to celebrate all of those good things. So cheers, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Breann. Those are great ways to get us started. We're all here to see pictures and hear from Sheena, so I'm not going to talk too long, but I would like to share that this is a uniquely talented person that we have visiting here today. Sheena has received a Fulbright scholarship and done a year's worth of work on that. She's received prestigious awards from her home country, been recognized in the United States. She's a veteran of 3 or more biennales internationally, and she's had several solo shows in New York and other places. This is a very accomplished artist who we can now say we're proud to have as a local artist, since we just made her an island. So I was going to conclude by saying that public art helps us to connect to each other and to ideas through our shared spaces. And this is part of how neighbors can connect and inspire one another, even if one of our neighbors is coming from a small island all the way down in the ocean. So please help me welcome Sheena Rose, who's going to talk about the
Let me see. Thank you everyone for that. Y'all got me blushing. I'm proud to be a Iowan, right? Yeah, I feel very proud. So, I don't know, y'all got me feel all mushy inside. Really, I feel very, very happy right now. And I come here all the way from Barbados with my mom to celebrate with y'all. This is a big thing for all of us. And I feel very honored, and I know as a Fulbrighter, I feel as though I'm still continuing my role, as I told the Fulbright crew, that I am concerned about the community and see how we can make art include everyone, looking at diversity and equality, and the list go on. So thank you. Thank you for seeing my voice, hearing my voice. So let's start the story. So everyone keep asking me, at what age you were interested in art? I was interested in art, I guess at 5, 7 years old. So I found this picture. I was in primary school, born and raised in Barbados. In St. Philip, we got 11 parishes, and I had a very wild imagination. I would treat my bedroom as a gallery space, and I would sell my work for 5 cents and 10 cents. And I would always say, I want to be a cartoonist. So I started to draw comics and stories, and then from there, as I grew up as a teenager, I said, well, you know what, I really want to be a cartoonist. But I went to Barbados Sprague Memorial, which was a secondary school. Then I went to Barbados Community College and did my associate and my bachelor's. Now, this piece here, I throw this in to show how far I was always interested in patterns. And it only dawned to me only this year or 2 years ago that I said, Sheena, you were really, really interested in patterns. This didn't just happen out of the blue. This is my first piece I ever sold in my life, besides the 5 cent and 10 cent pieces. My uncle, Sheena Rose, who is a very well-known architect, believed in this piece. And he said, I want to buy this piece. I said, no, I want this piece. I don't want to sell it. I want to be famous. I don't want to sell it yet. And he said, Sheena, it's better I take this piece rather than it's under your bed. So he purchased the piece and he have it in his boardroom. Up to today, people still compliment the piece. This project was about variety. And it was at Barbados Community College, and they said, how will you interpret these bottles and show variety? So what I did is I overlapped the bottles, and each section had a pattern. So I threw that in, that when I start to go on this roller coaster with y'all, you understand how we got here today. So I put this in too, because when I went to college, and I also did, I remember I told, when I graduated with my bachelor's, I said I wanted to be an international artist. People look at me strange, I come from a small island, and people are like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I want to be an international artist, that should be easy. And they're like, okay. So I pushed, and I remember David Bailey, a curator from London, came to Barbados, and he had this big vision. He said, I would like to have local and international artists show together. I hold up my hand, and I say, I'm going to be in that show. He said, well, hold on, you got to apply. I said, okay. So I went home, I taught myself animation. Even though I went to college, I taught myself hand-drawn animation. And I wanted to show the everyday of Barbados. I was tired of the beaches, I was tired of the sun, and the souvenirs. That is not us. And in this animation, I show myself walking through Bridgetown, which is our main town. And I got through. And I was a little confused at that time because I said, why everyone blowing up about this piece? And Carol Walker saw it in Barbados, Alfredo Jar, major curators, major art critics, and they said, girl, you're gonna go far. At that time, I was 22. I'm 37 now. And at 22, I was like, okay, what's happening? And everyone said, you're going to blow up, my girl. Just keep going. And my first show was outside of Barbados in Alice Yard, Trinidad. And then from Trinidad, I started a show in Connecticut. Then from Connecticut, I got this email, hey, we want you to do a residency in Cape Town for 3 months. Hey, we want you to live in Suriname, in Mungo, Suriname, in the jungle for 3 months. Hello, we want you in Amsterdam. Oh, do you want to be featured in this magazine? So I was like, what's happening? You know, and with my work, I started to look at patterns again. And this piece called Sweet Gossip. And I wanted to show the differentiation from Jamaica, from Trinidad and Barbados. I was tired of when I talk, people say, you sound Jamaican. I'm like, I'm Bajan, I'm Barbadian. So with these pieces, I did these graphical, loud pattern pieces to show how we Barbadians talk. Again, people get excited, it went viral on the internet. I just wanted to show the everyday. So what I said about the everyday, when I went to New York City, I wanted to show the everyday again. So I show some buildings, I like to explore with material and media. So I would take a pen and draw, I would paint. Anything I could grab in my hand, it just kept working. And in my brain, I'd be like, oh, let me see how I could add layers again, how I could add this, what perspective. I always be curious and see how to like transform the work. Now, when I doing all of this experimentation, I was doing new modeling on the side to pay bills. I was traveling to residencies and everything. And a good friend of mine, Dr. Allison Thompson, said, you should apply for Fulbright. I said, me? Apply for Fulbright? She said, yeah, I can see you doing that. I already have organized a group called Projects and Space, which you come to the project, I look for the space. And Barbados, we don't have a national art gallery. We don't have a lot of galleries. And what I did is use public spaces and transform them by hanging work on a fence, by putting them in the beach, by going in a park and doing poetry. Me, I didn't have no big funds. My parents allowed their house to become a gallery. Filmmakers project their film on the house. We did many projects. So I said, okay, let me apply. Let's see what happens. So I did a residency in New York, upstate New York, in RO, my very prestigious residency. And I heard, okay, I apply and they say, okay, Sheena, we're going to do the interview. So I make sure I look smart. I sit down in the prestigious library. So they come, Sheena, you look really good. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing a residency in RO, man. It's very prestigious. They're like, oh my, that's impressive. We have some questions for you, Sheena. I said, all right. So I act normal. I'm like, okay, what is it? They said, so if you get this scholarship, what will you do in the States? I said, I'm talking pure Bajan. Let me tell you something. I could catch a plane, I could take a boat, I could ride a motorcycle, I could ride a bicycle, but I could see art. I could move around and see the galleries and the museums. I can't do that at home. And with your scholarship, I can do that. Also with your scholarship, imagine what I could do with that. I don't have it, and I have been contributing so much to my island. So imagine what I could do. They said, oh, Sheena, you're short. Oh, you're going to get email to see your shortlisted. I said, okay. Get an email, so they start dancing. I'm like, yeah! Everybody in our, oh my, what's happening? Oh, I'm looking for Fulbright, shortlisted. So, got my scholarship, gone to Fulbright. Got my Fulbright. I chose the University of North Carolina at Greensboro to do studio art.
Because I didn't want it to focus on painting. I didn't want to focus on drawing or performance. I want to do everything. So in my studio, I put this picture because my story could go forever. So I tried to shorten my presentation. But with this here, it's just an idea that I have my work of me as a man, as me as an art critic, critiquing my work. So I put that on the internet. Again, it went viral because I did a soap opera of me being different people. But while I was at school, I noticed that even though I was on Naomi Jackson book cover, Oprah book list, Vanity Fair, E-People, Mocata, Museum of Contemporary African Diaspora Art, all of these, hyperallergic. The one problem I had, I hated myself. I discovered while being in the States, I discovered that I didn't like myself. I realized in the past I only had 4 CXCs, which is Caribbean Exam Council. Meaning when you're a teenager, you get a particular amount of certificates to get a job. I only received one CXC. And the teacher told me, because I was horrible in English, I will see you next year. She didn't even encourage me and say, you won't get it. I was feeling so sad. And a friend of mine at that time, best friend of mine told me, you won't get to community college. I said, nah, I'm a girl, not with 1 CXC. She said, no, you won't get it. I apply again, I get 3 more. To get to the college, you needed 4. 4. Other people have 6, 8, and 12. I have 4. So while I was at college, university, people Fulbright, of course insecurity hit me. I couldn't believe it. The dum-dum, the artist, me, international artist with 4 CNCs? Nah. But as I work on myself and become the art critic and sit down and dissect myself and say, nah, you got layers and you got depth in your work, my girl. Real thing. And I put it on the internet and show my honesty and my vulnerability and my diary on the internet. So, these were my diaries. I will share this on the internet. I will feel isolated, I will feel disconnected, displacement. I had so much anger because I could see so much potential in my homeland, in the Caribbean, and in the world. And I started to draw in these tiny sketches. And I feel so honored that these sketches actually show in the Barbados Museum in a prestigious exhibition to show that I was documenting and explaining how important it is to think about ourselves. So I felt very honored. At home now, back to reality, in 2016. And I had a very tiny studio. It was a bedroom. I started with a bedroom and went back to a bedroom. And you can see how clustered and tight my space was. I started, as I mentioned, to explore with different media, but a very tight room. So I continue. I started working and continue with my work. And here goes again. My work went viral again. I was invited to Rush Philanthropic Art Foundation, and I donated one of those city drawings. And I met this tall, lovely lady at the auction, and I said, she looked familiar. So I went to her. I said, excuse me, are you Serena Williams? She said, no, everybody think I am. I said, okay. I walk away. I said, Sheena, mind your manners. I went back to her. I said, excuse me, let me tell you something. You one beautiful woman, okay? What's your name? Venus Williams. I said, what? I said, my work over there. Right to her. My work is here, my work over there. She said, come, so Venus Williams chasing me down. I like Venus Williams. So I showed her my work. I was going to put out the picture, but then I said, man, I could tell the story. You could use our imagination. And she's put me hard, and I'm like, oh my God. So other people were fighting for the piece. When the evening come, the lady come, hug me, this other lady. She said, I love your piece, I got your piece. I said, yay! So she left. This lady that worked there come now. I said, I'm sorry, I don't see her name on the list. I said, oh, good dear. That's a Bajan saying, good dear. I said, I feel bad for her. Who purchased the piece? She said, oh, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. We can only tell the artist. I said, oh, my work is over there. She said, oh, Venus Williams. I freak out. I cried because I remember the girl that won CSC before CSC did a Fulbright scholarship and showing all over the world in museums and magazines and everything. I hear it as Venus Williams, woman work in 10 seconds. I cried. Thank you. I cried. But after the tears coming back to reality in a small bedroom, I did a performance called Island and Monster. This is one of my sketches of me looking at my space, feeling like the nervous giant. Had to go back home because the scholarship was done. One with a distinguished score with Breann. And here I am nervous, thinking about the histories, the settlers, the slavery, the contemporary space. What's going to happen to me? I became a monster. That will happen to me. So I did a piece called Island and Monster. I acted as two personalities, one as the island and one as the monster. The island obviously was Barbados. I wanted to imagine how Barbados would look as a person. And me, as someone that just left my homeland and feel like Shakespeare, the Tempest, how would that conversation go? I cursed the island, literally, half naked, walking around with flowers on me, feeling like an island with flowers and little people and houses on me. And the island was very graceful, but yet condescending, and saying, how dare you? How dare you? You should know better than this. I taught you this. No, you didn't. I taught you to behave yourself. So people watched the performance and cry and was nervous and tense while I rolled on the ground and cried to myself because I was begging my homeland to listen to me. I went overseas and learned so much, and please listen to me. So, this is also working with glitter because I saw it as a magical space. I was welcoming people to my performance. And this piece also sold to the board members of Mokada. And I felt really good because I had two. One is the island and one is the monster.
Afterwards, the director of PAM, Perez Art Museum, Franklin Sherman, recommended my name to this prestigious residency, the Artist Hermitage Retreat in Florida, in the Keys. And you can only be there if you were recommended. And I'm like, oh, snap again. So at that time, I felt like not just the island, not just the monster, I felt like an astronaut. But not astronaut traveling in space. She was traveling within herself. She was traveling in her heart, her brain, her livers, her kidneys, whatever, her feet, her toes, trying to understand what is happening to me. And I would just find foam materials and fake flowers and baskets. That's a basket over my head that I transformed into a helmet. Then later on, to be honest, I started to get ill. I didn't understand what was happening to me. My face started to swell up really big, even when I was studying at UNCG. And I started getting really sick. I even told my mom, plan my own funeral, because I was getting extremely sick. Everything that I eat, everything that I touch, I felt as though I was dying, being rushed to emergency. So I did a performance with me wrestling with myself. And there's a video of me, just me, on the sand, wrestling and pretending there's two people again. I did a piece after doing that or during that time, and I got a bigger studio now. A dentist, Dr. Jefferson Clark, saw me working in this tiny space, about to buy a small piece for me, and said, you know what, I have an unfinished piece upstairs. You can have it for free. And he said, you can have it as long as you like till you're ready. So up there in a big space, cement space, and we again, Project Space come back organically. We brought back the community. We had music, we had shows, we had theater in my space. He was blown away because he just thought he was only inviting artists, but apparently he invited the whole island and the world because people flew in and did articles on me. I also forgot to mention, right after Venus Williams, New York Times flew in and Tamara Best interviewed me, and it went again, viral again. So a lot of magazines flew in to this one girl in Barbados. I said, girl, you're big. And I'm like, man, this tiny bedroom. They're like, girl, you don't know. So when I did this piece called Apparently It's My Fault, I went through a moment again of being insecure and killing literally a part of me to accommodate for people out there. So this piece is a murder scene of 3 of me, 1 on the ground, 1 looking up at the murderer. So people say, wow, that's a powerful piece. I said, apparently it's my fault, because there was a moment that I felt as though people were annoyed a part of my personality. So afterwards, I still play around with the idea of me performing, start looking at patterns again, start thinking of how can I add myself, how can I add these different techniques of sweet gossip, invisibles, the island of monster, the 2 personalities. How can I, start to work larger now, as you can see in the background, because I have a bigger space, start to think of performances, installation art, and still sit, not knowing why I was sit. I put this piece, I chose this in because I wanted to lead soon to the bus shelter. And I thought this was very important to start to see the research that kick in. Now, Todd Salons, a very famous director, emailed me and said, I love your work. I want you to do the poster for it. I said, oh, wow. Well, Todd Salons, he said, yeah, I love your work. But when I read the script, this is the first time that I actually started to really, I did research before, but actually sitting down and reading someone else's brief or script or something like that and removing myself now. And I read the script and the play, it was his first play. And the play was about this couple that was in New York. And they had a black nanny from Barbados. And they wanted to build up their status. So they fired the nanny. And she didn't have no other option. She didn't have no other opportunity. And she loved the kids. The parents were very obnoxious. They went to Barbados to show her, hey, we love your island even though we fire you. But while she was in Barbados, the play is not going to happen. So I hope this is going to be a spoiler. But when they were having a good time in Barbados, arguing with each other, being obnoxious, she killed the children. I said, wow, she drowned the children. So I said, this is a heavy play. But I love how he had integrity and still had his voice. I said, I want to be part of it. I'm going to give you permission to because I'm a black woman from Barbados. I understand it. I get it. Let's do it. So I look at literally Barbadian water, and I try to capture that bluish green. I didn't want to catch just any color. Then I started to look at African patterns. And I said, how can I show African descent? How can it not be obvious? And those are the 2 children they chose for the poster. And I didn't want it to reveal the darkness. I didn't want to be obvious. I wanted to show a presence of African descent, a Caribbean person. And I said, if I show a Barbadian, get the right color blue sea. This is how I will show, or using codes to indicate that I read the story and it's not just 2 children there in the water. So I went back to myself again. I was teaching at the college. I was frustrated because I felt as though more should be happening to me. There and then, I didn't get back the job, so I became a full-time artist. So I really had to heavily rely on my work. And I went back to Island Monster again. I went back about self-love and accepting myself and seeing myself as an island, but also looking at very pastel colors and not thinking so aggressively this time. When I did the residency again with the Hermitage Artist Retreat in Florida, you could go back as many times as you like. And I went back one more time. And I was getting bored of looking at myself. And I started to look at magazine pictures and models and all kinds of vintage. But I wanted to add blackness. I wanted to add like myself can be in this space too. So I used pen and ink, just like going back to being a cartoonist again. But this time a little bit more like printmaking technique of edging, but it's pen and ink. So in my head, I used my imagination, pretending to be a printmaker, pretending to be somebody else to get this work done to make it exciting. And then while I'm doing that, I get this email. I got this email from the Inter-American Development Bank. I was like, okay. And then they say, hey, Sheena, we've been following you. We love your work. We have this brief. We would like you to do a 2.5-story mural at the headquarters in Washington, D.C. I say, okay. They say, we want sweet gossip and we want tone mashup. We want your sweet gossip and your tone mashup. And here's our brief, and we want you to represent the bank. We want you to look at all the countries we associate with. And mind you, I believe there's like over 30 countries, islands, and the Latin America. And I read their brief, and I started reading about each country. And I said, Sheena, don't get obvious. Where will we start? So I started with the color red, and I was angry again. I said, Barbados, you need to listen, because apparently everyone else overseas listening. Then I added the blue, that same Barbadian blue. Then I added the dark blue, because I wanted to show the reality of Barbados and not the stereotype. Then I added yellow. I cannot quite remember what yellow means at the moment, but I wanted it similar to y'all want to, because I see yellow as hope and welcoming. But it doesn't always have to be positive all the time. But there and then it felt warm to me. I added myself on the left-hand side looking up at these countries, and most of this is Bridgetown. Then I started to think of the different countries. I started to think of an explosion. I started to think of shatter, but yet togetherness. And I put Panama, Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica, any country that they're associated with. And I just never done anything like this in my life, as you could see from the earlier pictures. Then they told me, all right, Sheena, you're soon there. They had 8 bosses, 3 green lights. I got 1 green light. I got the 2nd green light. No, the 3rd. They said, all right, you're on the last piece. Let's get home. Let's hit it home. And my friend Jonathan Goldman and another curator, I can't remember her name, so please forgive me when you see this, but you were sweet. So what happened when we did this, we discussed, and they both said, what are you thinking? Maya. Oh yeah, Maya. When you say it, I beg you up. Real thing. Thank you. So when we did this, we were like, okay, Sheena, what are you trying to say? You talk about you discovering things, you're talking about the countries. And then they say, how about home? We talking about the future. I question about the future of home. Let me go back home. So I put the stars at the bottom coming out from that magical space. That's how I talk about the island of monster, as I talk about the astronaut, as I talk about self-reflecting. I said, let's look at the future. Their brief was about the future. Do Barbados have a future? So this piece is mostly Barbados. One of the streets or 2 of the streets. I made it to Washington, D.C. So I projected the sketch, and this is upstairs, and then there's downstairs. I did this mural in 12 days, let's say 2 weeks, by myself. All hand-painted. This is my first ever mural. And the president of the bank came, everyone was nervous, all the 8 bosses came. And I was like, they're like, all right, Sheena, hit me. Tell us. And I explained myself, I explained the passion, I explained how much they had contributed and so on. And everyone looking at the boss. He said, I love it. Tears went down my eyes. He said, I get it. It feels so genuine. I get it. I'm going to fly you back and we're going to do a talk together. I said, wow. He said, yeah, we're going to do VIP. We're going to pay for everything. You come back. Promise you. And then they went back. I brought my brother this time because I wanted my family to celebrate with me. I was so proud and so happy of myself. I couldn't believe I pulled out all of this in 2 weeks, upstairs and downstairs, and a little bit more on the side, and literally underneath the stairs painting. So, Franklin Sherman, you remember him at the Perez Art Museum? He was so proud. Everyone was so proud of what I done. He said, come. Right? Because they had an exhibition created by 2 curators. Oh, Lord, the names again. But they were created by 2 curators at the Perez Art Museum. And what happened? Oh, I remember. Perez Art Museum. And what happened, I was very proud and excited with myself. And I said, you know what, this show is about the future. Let me look back at those drawings with the pen and ink. Let's see how we can make this large. So I projected one of my small 8 by 10 drawings into 8 feet by 15 feet women. And I was like, wow, let's do it. And people again fell in love with it, and I felt very proud of myself to see this small pen and ink turn into something so big that looked very, very similar. So, does this look familiar to y'all? In the same space, after doing the mural at the Perez Art Museum, I received this email. And I received it from the previous director, and she said, we saw your work, Jessica Rowe, we saw your work, and we've been scoping around, and I think it'd be very interesting that you apply. I read the brief, and I felt good about it. I said, this sounds like my voice. This is me. I've been talking about the community, I've been talking about diversity, I've been talking about welcoming, I've been talking about inclusion. This is why I get Fulbright. This is why I get angry. I want to be part of this. So I show my parents, I show my family, they say, yeah, go for it. I say, all right, let's do it. I grab canvas. Mind you, I am not a graphic designer. That's the first thing I said. And my best friend, Richard Mark Rollins, he's an artist and designer. He said, I will work with you, Sheena. Don't worry, you got this. Just paint. I grabbed any canvas, I run quick and grab the canvas. And I started to read about Iowa. I started to read the Financial Times in 2014. Des Moines, Iowa was the best in financial and can handle themselves. I was like, oh, Iowa. Oh, we think about the community, and we have gardens, and we have, and the list go on, I'm like, Iowa, you sounding good. But then obviously there's contrast. That's why we're doing this. Y'all were talking about the reputation and saying we got to build this reputation. We don't want this bad reputation. I'm like, okay, so I can't look at the light side. I also got to think about contrast. Let me add some dark colors in this. Let me add some purple. But then we think about green for greenery. Then think about red for diversity, yellow for welcoming. And the list go on, and I got all excited. And I said, but don't be obvious. And then looking at race, do not be obvious. Do not offend anyone. So I look at all kinds of patterns. Asian, Indian, African, Caribbean, the list go on, American, the list go on. And I made sure I dissect those patterns because I didn't want it to offend anyone and pin them down and pigeonhole them. That was not my aim. I wanted to show a mixture of energy and show some liveliness. I imagine myself being in that space, sitting out by a bus stop and want to feel welcome. I want to feel good waiting on my bus. So I started to play with colors. I started to think of negative space, positive space. And if you could see some bit of age and a bit of vintage, a bit of this, a bit of English. It was a lot. It was a lot, as you can see in this picture. Right, because I only had 2 weeks to a month to show my presentation. And my boy Richard was like, all right, Sheena, you got it? Let's transform these into bus shelters. And Sheena Rose ain't my lawyer, my cousin Dion, Basil Scott, the lawyer, we came together and we were like, all right, let's present this. And that night, when I saw y'all, I told myself, be myself. So I came, I explained color coding, I explained the research, I explained imagining how they will look. But I see how the colors pop in. I'm from the Caribbean, but I didn't want to show the obvious. And here we are. This put a smile on my face. Thank you. This really put a smile on my face. We saw a guy by the bus stop yesterday, right, Matt? Right, Mommy? And I said, that guy is not lonely. He has people around him. That was my goal. So, I'm a full-time artist. I got to make my money, but I didn't want to milk it. People fell in love with the bike. People fell in love with the bus shelter. And I was like, there and then, yes, was it? I think I announced it a little bit. Yes, we had started to announce it. And we started to show the prototypes. And people were like, oh my God, we love these pieces. But again, I'm not about money. I always about finding the voice. So I started to look at New York City on the left-hand side. I started to look at St. Lucia on the next side. And I started to play with colors and want to see, how does this country feel with this color? How does this country feel with this color? Then I started to look at political situations. I look at Poland, when we had the feminist movement. And then on the other side, my lockdown being in Barbados during COVID and tourism. Then I found out, there and then, when I was getting extremely sick, felt like if I died even more and more, I put up rose. I can't help to be poetic. I really can't help it. And I rubbed the flowers in my face because I couldn't take it anymore. I really couldn't take it. So we did a lot of blood tests and everything to find out. And before I revealed, I asked the doctor, would it stop me doing my art? Because I was crying at first. He said, well, Sheena, we're looking at rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. I said, would it stop my art? He said, no. I said, okay. A week and a half, let's say 2 weeks later, he came back. He said, Sheena, come in the office. Come in my office. I said, okay. And I sat there. He said, Sheena, you were diagnosed with lupus. I said, okay. I said, I wasn't crying. I asked him this. I said, doctor, one more question. Would it stop my art? He said, no. I said, let's carry on now. And from there, I try not to be all sad about it. I move on. I try to be positive. I do get flare-ups. You may hear me clear my throat. That's flare-ups. I can't do nothing about it. But I always try to think positive. I've done speeches. I've done TED Talk. I've done many others. And when it come during the COVID, everyone was nervous and depressed and angry and anxious. I try to think positive because my body will attack me if I go down that road. And people put me in speeches and I tell them, look, I have lupus. A friend of mine, he was thinking dark things. And I tell him, let me tell you something. At least you can bathe and your skin don't feel like fire. Think about that. So all I'm trying to tell you is enjoy life, appreciate every moment. Every moment. If I barely get sad or anything, my body will attack me. I always try to be positive. So, after the bus shelter, more opportunities happened. Right? My school came back to me. The Wetherspoon Museum came back to me and said, hey, we want you to talk about positivity. We want you to make the students feel optimistic. I said, you know what? You're right. I just found out I got lupus. I'm trying to be positive. I just did the bus shelter. We're all trying to be positive. Let's do it. So I listened to the news heavily. And I said, nah, students don't need to hear about the news. They got to be hopeful. So again, I started looking at diversity. I started looking at patterns. I started thinking about the development of where are we going in globalization. And I listened to a very heavy TED Talk. And I said, hold on. If we're talking about India, China, America, and the Greenland, Iceland, all of these places, why isn't the Caribbean in this? Are we part of this conversation? So I inserted the Caribbean in this and started to think of movement, started to think of hope, started to think of our next global movement, thinking about a bit of climate change, but also us as people. And I came up with this piece. You know, they love this piece. This piece is supposed to be done, you know. But they love it so much, they extend it. Students love it. They have students playing violins and instruments in front of it. They just love it. And I felt good because that was the goal. I wanted them to feel like anxiety could cool down. Even though it feels a bit conflicted, I don't want it to be a bad confliction. I want it to feel like good and make you question yourself and question about the future, but in a good way. So, talking about good way and positivity, a major hospital came to me. Memorial Slogan, Kennecker, MSK, approached me, and it's a cancer hospital. And they say that we have this competition, we want someone to talk about, you know, we want people to feel included again, they want to feel relatable, but feel happy. Cancer is not a good thing. Cancer is intense. And during that time, I felt a lump in my breast, funny enough. And I was nervous, and I didn't want not anyone to know. And I decided to go to the doctor. And I found out good news that it wasn't anything cancerous. And the first thing I added was red again, but not anger. They were, to me, in my head, the lumps and thinking about movement. Then I added purple and I added blue for the laboratory, green for nurturing, and orange for structure, and the list go on. Now this was a different technique now, because with the bus shelter, if you notice it's like a periscope, like a telescope, I can't remember the word, but when I do back and forth and flip. Then for the bike, it was okay, I painted, but in this case now, it is glass. I never done glass. Even though we printed on the bus shelter, this is like 2 patterns come as one. So we have 3. So right now you're seeing 1, 2, 3. I was lucky because I am not a graphic designer. I was very lucky. My friend Richard again says, Sheena, what you could do is you could trace on top of the canvas and imagine how would the colors look. You know what? It's 2 separate canvases and imagine it come out as this on glass. They love it. They love it. They even just email me and say, we would like to extend it. Here I am, being political again. So after doing all these major projects, I went back home, as you can see the blue, and I picked up my umbrella because Barbados is going through some roughness. Not just with Corona, but the volcano from St. Vincent came over and did some damage. We had a freak storm. And it was looking at the umbrella as shelter. You drown in, but you got shelter. It doesn't make sense, but that way they literally, people look at me at the beach, they're like, what is she doing? And it just felt right to me. Then from there, as you remember the ladies that I draw with the afros, I wanted to become, well, I always wanted galleries' attention. I got bills to pay. But I didn't do this for just galleries. This was the first time I did this. And crashing in patterns, crashing in blackness, crashing in sports. Because with my lupus, I can't do sports. The only thing I could do is swim and yoga. I used to do kickboxing. After my diagnosis, while I did kickboxing, all my joints hurt me. You know how sad I felt? I felt like a prisoner. So when I look at these tennis players, these boxers, these racers, I admire them because my body can't do it anymore. So that's why I did these pieces, because it's me living miraculously through them and just looking at their techniques and their passion. I also look, again, at blackness and black love and also being in the Caribbean. Behind them, it wasn't deliberate, but as I work along it became deliberate. I took pictures of the Barbadian sky, the sunset, and this sky felt like the rainbow. And I deliberately add a rainbow sky behind them, looking at it's not just man and woman that could be in love. Everybody could be in love. So this piece called Couple Kissing. But with my little sense of humor, the couple kissing, but there's noise behind them, so you don't know. So I play with humor, with tension. This is my first solo show in New York. First ever. I had solo shows before, but I felt accomplished. This is at the Bud Gallery. And I was like, yeah, all right. So, on the left-hand side, I won an award for being the distinguished student of UNCG. And on the left, and then on the right, just before I got here, the Prime Minister have nominated me for culture. And my dad died last week with cancer. That's him reading New York Times. I captured that picture of him being proud of me. And I know he'd be very proud of me right now. I put this picture to big him up. I always remember him and my parents for believing in me. Sorry. So I put this up for my dad because he believed in me and let me be. So I love you, Daddy, and I'm bigging you up. So I put this picture up. I started with me young, and I started me with flowers. I brought myself flowers to make myself happy. And I post this up to show and tell y'all, buy yourself flowers to make yourself happy. Thank you so much.
Sheena has had an enormous and both troubling and joyful journey to be with us here in Des Moines. And we are so grateful that you did. We're so grateful to share a time with you and with your mother who's come with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. I'm good with questions.
Okay,
I'm
so
good.
if we have,
Thank you.
if any of you have some questions, please be thinking. I'd like to just start and ask, it seems like there are seasons in your work, time where you're traveling, time where you're being maybe inspired. I've heard a lot from you about researching. What has it meant to have different times where you are working or researching, times when you're on the island or when you're traveling? How does that affect you as an artist?
This year has been a very interesting year. I cannot say it's the worst year of my life because a lot of major things, good things have happened. So I feel like my painting is split into two. And I purposely travel a lot this year because during the lockdown was heavy research. Barbados had heavy research. And I read 36 books in 2020. So I did plenty of research. So I wanted to relax my brain by traveling. And even though I tried to relax my brain, like you see yesterday, how I got excited about those people, about this art, sorry. And I'm looking at their techniques and their concept, but more so technique. Because when I go home, I can read about it, but I can't see it in person. So to actually see it in person, I try to dissect and wonder how did they approach these pieces. So it's been very interesting this year to bombard, like really take over the traveling. And that's my form of researching. But when I go home, I have very tight deadlines. But luckily for me, I can work fast. So the work, I still make sure it's up to standard, even though I work fast.
I'm curious about how many hours a day did you work to get that huge mural done in 2 weeks?
You know what's funny? Shopping kind of helped me too, any form of distraction, because I believe that you shouldn't be working constant. You should take at least an hour or two. So if I got 24 hours and the bank opened from 9 to, they allow me from 9 to 9 or 9 to 10 because of the last security, I would take 2 hours to break from them 4 hours. So probably like 8 hours of working on it, maybe more, maybe 12. But yeah, it's like, but you know what's funny, what I forgot to mention, is that I didn't just project it and the image was there, ta-da! I had to repeat that one with the girl staring. I had to repeat that on the left-hand side like 10 times and hope for the best again. So I was like, you know? So every moment I was just lucky. I believe that if you follow your gut feeling and have your heart fully in it, it's not just a coincidence. It's just like the language, the concept just keep building. It's a happy accident. Yeah.
I'm wondering how old you were when you sold that patterned painting to your uncle and what your reaction was. Did you think, I'm going to keep selling paintings the rest of my life?
First, that's a good question. I think I was, let me see, if I graduated at 22 and he purchased that in 2014, I had to be like 19 going 20. And it was bizarre, the idea of selling art, even though you went to 1 or 2 galleries and see people selling art. I was like, shouldn't you be at a certain age to sell it? You know, shouldn't you be like established to sell it? So I thought that if you hold pieces for till you hit like a certain age, then you should sell. So I was a little like confused, overwhelmed, and it felt, I don't want to say forceful because he was so excited. And it's not about holding on to a piece and treasuring it per se. It was just an ignorant idea that when you hit a certain age, you should sell. So that's how I felt. I felt a little confused. Yeah. So I never think of selling again. I just was confused with the idea of when to sell. Yeah. When you get older now, you got bills to pay, you don't got time to be confused no more. You don't got time. I wish I had that privilege. Yeah.
Welcome. What a great discussion. You know, one of the people I thought about as you were talking is one of my favorite artists is Nick Cave. And Nick was at a lecture at the Art Center maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and he talked, I think, about how his evolution went from being a dancer to a visual artist. And one of the experiences that really shaped his work was the beating of Rodney King, and how as a black man he wanted to disguise his identity with his sound suits. Have there been experiences in your life that have helped you evolve as an artist and have shaped your art in that way?
I think when I went New York City, I did a performance after this experience. I went New York. I think when I study in States, this is when I first discovered I am not African American. I thought that all black people that were in America that even visit was African American. I just thought so. But when I went New York, before the scholarship, and I went to MoMA, had a huge headache, which I told Matt the story. When I saw Van Gogh for the first time, when I saw like Andy Warhol, you know, the legends, and I get a major headache to the point that the security guard asked me if I want a wheelchair, if I want to be wheel out, you know, and I was so like excited, you know, I always excited, but so excited, and we had to find a taxi driver because the headache was that bad. I didn't even know I had lupus that time, so it could be that. So I would assume it's just a regular headache right now. And we saw a taxi driver, and my aunt told me this. She said, Sheena, you're not going to get a taxi driver. Not so high in the streets. I confused. I like, huh? And we wave. Taxi driver drive past. We wave again. Taxi driver drive past. We finally got one, but one was parked. When we got in, he drove extremely slow, and I was laying there on the chair in the back with my head pounding, and he took the long way. And my aunt got frustrated because she lived there for a long time, and she said, how dare you? You purposely drive slow and slow, and you know my niece here was sick. He said, we don't pick out your kind of people. That was the first time that maybe I realized I went through racism. I went in the mirror, I look at my nose, I look at my mouth, I look at me. And I didn't know how to feel, how to do. I felt disgusted, I felt judged, I don't know. And I did a performance, my first performance was I naked. I came with clothes on, it was my first, so it was a little clumsy, but people still applauded. And I had tons of flowers in my hair, because my name is Rose, my last name is Rose. I had tons of plastic roses on my head. And I stripped down naked and started talking about my experiences of that same encounters of people approaching you weird, sexually, stereotyping you. And people said, Sheena, you were naked. They literally naked, but naked by revealing these stories. And that piece I call One Person, Many Stories. So, yeah, it's not a good feeling. And I actually met Nick Cave that a time too, and he fell in love with my sketches. He gave me his number and everything, like say, hey, show me out and thing, you know? So I felt honored he had liked the work, because I guess it's the same language or connection or something. But yes, it's not a good feeling. Yeah. Any more questions? I finally remember the names. I do get paranoid. So I would like to big up Maria Elena Ortiz, Dr. Marsha Pierce, the other side of now at PAM, and then Maya Renes for the Development Bank. So when y'all see this, you can't curse me now. Ha ha. Any more questions? Hit me with anything. Yeah?
Thank you so much, Sheena.
Thank you
Thank
too. Yay, thank you.